Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm excited because today I have my new friend, Meryl Simmons, with me. Meryl, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and just tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for having me here. It's great to be with you today. So what it is that I do is I am a professional EOS implementer, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the acronym. I am a coach and a facilitator. And what I really do, in addition to helping teams to introduce and install simple, practical tools and disciplines into their business so that they can get everything they want from their business, is I work with leadership teams to make them better at three things. I help them to improve their vision, making sure that not improve their vision, but get aligned, right? Strengthen their vision so that everybody is 100% on the same page with where they're going, rowing in the same direction, and their plan to get there. The second thing is traction. I help leadership teams and hopefully down through the business by installing simple frameworks and tools. They can not only see things more clearly, but they can start to lead with clarity and control, enabling everyone in the business from top to bottom to actually execute on that vision day in and day out, making decisions and not have everything running through just the founder, right? I don't know, Jeff, if any of that ever sounds familiar, if you meet any business owners where their business is running them. And then, of course, the third thing that I help teams to do that I'm super passionate about is not only just the tools, but to build a cohesive, honest, functional leadership team. So to be healthy, because not all leadership teams, even the good ones, don't always function as well together as they could. And some of the work that I'm super passionate about is not just teaching teams tools, but giving them the space to actually stop for a moment and actually get clear, get intentional, have a conversation together, because they know the answers, but they're often moving so fast and stuck in the thick of their business in the weeds. And so getting out of the weeds, having those healthy conversations, those healthy dialogue and conflict at times to get everyone back in the same page and doing great things, getting everything they want from their business.
I love that. Now, there's so much I can unpack, but the thing that's immediately coming to mind is the image of, being in the boat and everybody rowing. A lot of times you got everybody on the one side all rowing and the other side's not functioning, so you're just going in circles.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to pull out the proverbial elephant in the room, because the first thing I hear from visionaries is, what I don't want constraints, I don't want systems. And honestly, I will admit to having been one of those people. But I'm going to say it's a little like buying a horse and then carrying it around. It's heavy rather than riding the thing the way it was meant to be. So let's talk about the whole concept of EOS, because to me, it's something that Gino created for visionaries to help us. So please address that, because I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, I mean, and the concepts of EOS they're not rocket science or certainly unique in any way. They're really foundational, super, super practical. But one of the things that I think is so brilliant about the EOS system is it is, in fact, that it is a comprehensive system. And if you can kind of just pull yourself out of the tools piece, right, the practical kind of widget, if you will, and you think about the fact that every business, in order to scale your business, right, the more people you start to add, I always say, like, more people, more problems, right, new levels, new devils, things get more complicated. And the decisions become, there's more riding on it, and everything, the communication breakdown happens more quickly. The way you make decisions becomes more inconsistent the more people you have and the way they do their own thing. And before you know it, as you said, people are just turning in circles in their boat, not because they don't want to do a good job, but because they don't have strong foundations underneath them in a unified way. And so if you can think about your business, and any business for that matter, most entrepreneurs and leaders are dealing with hundreds of problems throughout a day, like sometimes throughout an hour, whether it be the people, the people the certain processes that aren't working, or, this maybe the structure's not right, or people aren't clear on their roles, which sounds so basic, but it comes out in different ways. Like, I didn't know you wanted me to do that. Like, I didn't know that was the expectation, right? Like, things that are just kind of happening by the moment are all rooted. Like, if you could look at 100 of those or some odd of those things, they're all actually rooted in 6 key areas. Like the root of the problem, or the root of the foundations that every business needs to be strong in, can be boiled down to 6 key things. And so that is what the EOS methodology is actually based on, is these 6 key areas. We call them the 6 key components. So vision, every team needs to be strong in where they're going, how they're going to get there. It's got to be simple, and it's got to be shared with everyone. It's got to get out of your head and shared with everyone.
So I'm going to interrupt you between each one, because I'm fascinated that a lot of times vision is sort of loosely in here, but it's not communicated. And honestly, I believe that, again, our job title literally includes the word visionary. I feel like vision should be something we communicate well. Is that fair?
I mean, yes and no. I think also, like, visionaries have a lot of big ideas, and their brain is often activating a lot faster than someone who doesn't have a visionary quality. So visionaries often feel like things are not being executed at the pace that they want to be executed. Some of that is because it's disorganized in how it was communicated, or just unclear. The other part of it is because maybe there's no framework to help teams to actually track progress and stay focused, and there's too many things, right? Yeah. So it's about getting clear. And I would say the majority, I think there was like a Gallup study out there, or a Harvard Business Review study out there, with this like crazy stat around like 90-something% of leadership teams, executive leadership teams, do not have the, whatever the expectation or objective of the CEO or founder, they are not aligned with that vision. Like, they don't either, not that they're not aligned, but they're unclear of what it is. And I should look that stat up so that I'm not just spewing baloney here, but there are some good stats around that. And so it is getting it out of your head and on paper, and clearly and simply communicated. So that vision is the first thing. The second thing that we can boil things down to, that root cause of lots of problems, are around people. I mean, great teams need great people. And, when we talk about, everyone, I think, has heard about the concept of like right people, right seats. But what does that really mean, right? How do you really operationalize that and make it mean something, and live it, and start to make decisions on how you hire, how you fire, how you give feedback, how you get clear on what the business needs? You might have a great person who aligns with your culture, but they either may no longer have the capacity and skills to execute at what you need them to, what the business needs. Or the opposite is maybe they are really great at what they're doing, but they don't align with the culture. And the fastest way to take an A-star player on your team and move them out the door is to put them on a team with someone who's great at their job, but doesn't align with culture, right? So you got to have right people and right seats. And EOS gives leaders and managers really strong, objective, practical tools to get clear on what's working and what's not, and then also how to lead and manage better. Many founders haven't gone into their trade because they wanted to run and operate a business and lead and manage people, right? Nobody teaches you that.
We have nightmares about that, in fact. And I think that's one of the fundamental problems is, we're good at the thing, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to lead people to do the thing. And it's like, oh God, no, hell no.
Totally different. I mean, myself included, in my early days of leadership, often people will promote someone who's been with them for a while. They're great at that job, and they say, great, I'm going to move you into this new seat. It's perfect. And that person has never, like, those are completely different skills, and they do it without setting that person up for success. And it's just a recipe for disaster. And I see it all the time. It's not ill-intended, but it's not intentional. So we need to be intentional about that when we want to run a functional, scalable, sustainable business, healthy business that's valuable, right? That's not dependent on you, the founder, because often that's the biggest breakdown, is that when you don't have the right structure and the right people and clarity around what good looks like and who you're hiring for, what the outcome is, everything still goes through you. You're the
Well,
bottleneck to your business.
I see this even in Fortune 500s where people show up, they're hired to do a thing, and they're like, so what's my role? Oh, we'll figure it out. It's like, what? I'm a founder and I'm good at figuring things out, but I know that most humans, they just want to know with certainty what their day looks like and how, at the end of the day, how do they go home and say, I did a good job today?
That's right. That's right. People want to feel satisfied and fulfilled that they're doing, most people, right? That they're doing their best work. But you know what, Jeff, without going too in the weeds with you here, because I feel like we could have a whole other episode just on this topic.
Done.
But it's not enough to just talk about the responsibilities as a task. Like often people wind up giving it as a task list. And that doesn't drive ownership. That drives a tasker. And you have to get clear in the role around what are the outcomes, very clearly, 3 to 5 bullets. What are the outcomes that this seat is going to be responsible for owning, driving, solving the problems in that area when they come up? When you are clear about that, and hey, what does good look like? 2 to 3 metrics of things that I can look at every week. Am I on track or off track with those things? That tells us, is it working? Am I doing my job? Am I doing it well? And where do I need to improve? Not, hey, you're out the door, but how do I coach you of where we need to make improvements so that you can be your best here? I want you to be your best.
I love that. And I'm inspired by, I think it was James Clear in Atomic Habits. He said, we don't rise to the level of our ambition, we fall to the level of our systems and or habits, if you will. I think it's, as an employer, we owe it to our team to say, here's what success looks like. Because otherwise, we're all just rowing haphazardly and we hope the boat goes somewhere.
But I can't tell you how many times, and because it's hard work actually to get clear on what that is, because it's not just the end, it's not just A to B, it's all the things that get you from A to B. And so it's trying to get clear on what those activities are and how we might measure them to make sure that we're actually going to get to B, or what are the obstacles that we need to remove. And all of these things, like, they're not sexy, like, they're not new or innovative. Like they are disciplines that, when done consistently, day in and day out, make you a better leader, make your business stronger, make it more valuable, make it less dependent on you. All those things.
All of the holy grails that we as visionaries should want. And I'm fascinated by Vince Lombardi, because he used to start every spring training season with, gentlemen, this is a football. And I think we forget that. Is that fair?
Yes. Well, it is. It is, because we're moving so fast. We have our focus, like, it's so in the weeds that when we can't come up for air and really think about it, we take these like basics for granted. And so we're building while flying. None of this happens until it's like, oh shit, what did I do? Like, what have I done here? And and it's not a judgment or pointing fingers. You've gotten it off the ground, but now we've got to build intentionally if we want it to get to that next milestone without continuously hitting the ceiling or spinning our wheels.
I genuinely see a lot of businesses like the world's most disorganized Olympics, where everybody's competing in their sport on the same field at the same time. There's going to be injuries.
Oh yeah, casualties for sure. Or injuries.
There will be carnage. Let's call it what it is. So I think what I see is that EOS, obviously the title is operating system, but it's the rule book to avoid carnage. Is that fair?
I think so. I mean, I love to, like, I work with all clients. Some of them are in worse shape when I meet them than others. And some clients are just, super growth minded, and they're like, we know we want to grow, and we should have a system underneath us to make sure that we're going to execute without having a dumpster fire. And so like, I love those people. It's kind of like when's the best time to fix your roof is certainly before the storm, So you can take two angles for sure. But like, honestly, like, it doesn't have to be like building and running a business is hard enough. It really is. It's one of the hardest things that we can do. Yeah. And like, I commend those brave visionaries and those founders who go out there and want to change whatever it is that they're impacting with their thing, right? But like, let's remove the piece that doesn't need to be as difficult, or EOS doesn't remove problems from happening, but it makes it more simple. It gives you tools to overcome those complexities and challenges in a more graceful, objective, and clear way, so that you're in control and you're just providing a healthier place for everyone to come and do great work.
I love it. And it's just, to me, I mean, we tend to start dumpster fires just because we can, but it's having the fire drills so the team knows what to do when the fire starts, rather than, holy crap, what do we do now that the building's on fire? So, okay, so we have vision and we have people. I will get through your 6, but I'm going to make it painful and slow.
Sorry. Thank you for refocusing me. The third thing is data, right? So, I could talk about this topic for so long too, because like, I hear often, it depends on where they are in their stage of their business, but I often hear some visionary founders where they don't want to let go of the vine or control because they don't trust their people. And maybe they don't trust their people because they're not the right people. Maybe they don't trust them because they haven't been clear about the outcomes. But the third thing is they're not looking at clear data, a few activities, 5 to 15 each week, that actually give them visibility and optics into the most important things about their business, so that it doesn't show up at the end of the month in a financial report. They can fix it before it starts to hit that bottom line. So a lot of business owners will, if they look at any data, they're looking at something that's already happened. So they're looking at a lagging indicator, and it's basically like going on a road trip and riding your car through the rearview mirror, driving through the rearview mirror. And the truth is that most accidents and things that are going to happen in front of you, not behind you.
Yeah.
And so if you can be a better predictor and have a handful of activity-based metrics that help you to predict, are we going to be on track? If we do these things, these 10 things, and look at these 10 things every week, we will hit our goal at the end of the month or the end of the quarter. But if any one of these things starts to fall off track, then we can make, and we don't fix it, we can make the assumption that we probably won't get there. But also knowing where the breakdown is happening is what's really important. A lot of teams are in the firefighting mode because they don't actually know where. They're not really looking at the very specific activities that drive those outcomes, that drive success.
I love that. And I think that's, again, habits, activities. If you do the right activities in the right order at the right time, the result is a guaranteed, you know more or less what the outcome is. I think far too many businesses are, seat of the pants. In racing, they pull a car over for a pit stop, whereas we're just, okay, I'll just lean out the window and I'll check the oil. And we're like, we can keep going. Oh, we lost somebody.
Yeah, totally. And kind of what I started to say before, but then sort of lost my train of thought of like why some visionaries don't give up the control, or sort of, they don't trust their team, is because they don't know how to measure. They're not measuring that success week over week. They might be like, something's off here. But if every person on your leadership team, and it has to start there, and then we'll hopefully cascade for your whole business of how you just run and operate. But if every single person on your leadership team had 2 to 3 measurables that every week everyone showed up and they own their measurable, it's very clear if you've got someone who's performing or who's not. That accountability piece is so critical, and that shows up in these types of disciplines when it's not there, or if someone is not performing those weaknesses. it shows up, and that's when you have to have the conversation, right? Then it's like well, our numbers have been off for the last 6 months. Well, who's doing anything about it? Well, I don't know where the problem is, or I don't know, this has been
Finger
happening, or that's been
pointing.
happening, right? So it
Yeah.
really gives you a grip on the optics that you need to look for, the most important things that you need to track in your business, so you could change it and fix it.
I love this. And for the record, I'm going to be having most of my new clients talk to you first, because
Awesome.
I can build all kinds of things, but it's a little like playing rockets with Elon in the early days of SpaceX when, oops, that one exploded.
Yeah, I mean, and look, like the scorecard, so the data piece, the tool we use to strengthen data, and get foundations there, that takes time. Like my teams often, they're not happy with their scorecard, or we revisit it like often 18 months after we first, or we go back to it.
Yeah.
You finesse it and you get it right, because you don't always know. And that's okay, but it is about doing this work, and it is about putting these disciplines into actions. And to kind of comment on what you said earlier of how some people sort of resist, they feel like it's rigidity or going to hold them back. Actually, no, it makes you more agile. Like it really enables you to be so much more agile in how you move, because you have optics now, you have tools that you're using.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking the Navy SEALs have a quote that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And I think a lot of visionary entrepreneurs are like, let's go faster. And it's like, but we haven't built the steps. We don't know what success looks like. So we're making good progress. We just don't know where we're going.
Totally. And sometimes it's about just I've never tracked this before, so I want to look at 13 weeks trailing of this thing, measure it and see if there's any patterns and learn, right? So data is the third thing. And so a handful of metrics and optics that tell us if our business is on track or off track. The fourth is issues. A lot of businesses get stuck and slow down because they often the issue that is happening keeps coming up in their business over and over and over again. And it's because they're either doing a few things, or I should say a few things happen. One thing that happens is maybe there's all these issues and they don't have any place to organize them. And so they just sort of like react to them as they happen, and then they move on. The other thing is that when they're addressing issues, they're often not addressing them at the root of the issue. And so in those instances, which can be really frustrating, is when you don't address the root and you just put some duct tape or band-aids on things. And sometimes it's not even intentional. Sometimes they think they've solved it, but they're not taking the time. They're not training that discipline to say, like, what is this a symptom of? Right? That's the question I always encourage teams to say. What is this a symptom of? Is it a people problem? Is it a process problem? Is it a structure problem? What is it a symptom of? Right? And so they have to get better at not only how they organize issues and prioritize them, but also getting to the root cause so that they can, solve it once and for all, and it doesn't keep coming up. And that, again, is a discipline, and a lot of teams really struggle there, or they'll make a decision and then nobody acts on it. They don't have an owner to actually execute on whatever has to happen in order to follow that through. And so we've got to strengthen that, because that can really slow teams down. And again, you kind of have that like ongoing firefighting as a result. It can be really frustrating.
Well, and to be honest, I think a lot of visionaries, they'll hold on to issues that are not theirs to hold on to, because they don't know how to delegate it, but they also don't know how to let it go. And I'm guilty of that. It's like, well, let me do it. I'll do it faster. And it's like, but then I'm not teaching my team how to solve those problems. So it becomes tomorrow. Guess what? Same problem comes up. Guess who they come to? All right. So we got issues. What's number 5?
Yeah, process. Every business has a handful of processes. It's how they run. I'm not talking about a 400-page SOP. Nobody wants that. But like, what are the high points? Sort of the 20-80 rule of how you acquire a customer, how you pitch the customer and sell the customer, how you deliver your service or product to the customer, how you hire, how you fire, how you know, all of the things that all of the core functions of your business are responsible for. You want to make sure that you can document them 20%. And, you know, AI here can be a really great tool. And I know lots of
Yes.
teams that are already using that. But if you don't know where to insert AI, if you haven't actually thought about your process or documented it. And so, you know, what you can do is you can say, well, what are the stages of this step that I can speed up or have AI help me to be more productive here? So the activity and exercise of actually understanding which core processes you need to document, and then have them documented, train your team on them, so that everything is predictable. Everyone's doing it the same way. So this is really important, more important than you think, right? So it's not scalable or predictable if people aren't following a process. And again, 2080, I'm not talking about like step, you know, depends on what the job is. Of course, there are some things that can require that, but you're hiring hopefully great, capable people. You want them to put their expertise into it as well, but you need to have certain stages along the way. And actually, one of the things I love most about EOS is all the tools fit together. Like I meet a lot of people that are like, oh, we do that or we do that, but they do these bits and pieces and they're not really running the system. And maybe they'll get some help there. But like when you run the system as it was designed, intended, pure, all the pieces fit. So like
it's like a set of gears, just calibrated perfectly.
Yeah, and it's funny actually, when I meet new teams, they're like, well, we just have to get processes in place. That's where we're weakest. And I'm like, all right. But like the truth is like if they don't have good clarity around their structure, who owns what does it mean to own it? What does success look like? And then the right people in the right seats, and they're not documenting certain data, like processes, like it comes later. Like you can't, it doesn't matter if those other things, if you don't know where you're going, your vision is not clear, like none of those things matter. Right?
Yeah, you're just busy being busy, and by God, you do it consistently at least, right?
Totally. And so it's up to the leader to lead and manage and drive accountability that the processes are being followed. And the best way to actually do that is through one or two metrics in a scorecard, right? So if the process includes these big steps, the way you know that if it's working or that your team is following it and trained on it well is measure those two things each week in a scorecard and let them know you own these two metrics. This will tell us how you're doing.
Awesome. All right. Well, I could talk about processes for hours.
Really?
Now, oh yes, I nerd out about them. And by the way, I second your comment. When you have a team member who's exceptional at doing a thing, and then you feed that thing and how they do it to AI, it will smooth and polish and buff. And I mean, it is gorgeous. And in my opinion, that is what AI, the promise it delivers to business is we can make smart people better and we can up level everybody else on the team. Whereas most people just say, I don't know what I'm doing. Give me something. Again, it's like having a business without a vision. You can go far and fast, but it doesn't mean you're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. I love that. That's totally. And then last but not least is the traction piece. You've got to have tools and ways to drive execution. So disciplines and frameworks that actually bring that vision to the ground. And so in EOS, we use 90-day goals. We call them rocks. Less is more. If I can teach leaders things, it's to be a simplified leader, right? It's how do you simplify everything? So less is more. Teams often don't get things done because they choose too many things, or they don't have someone who actually owns the thing, or they don't know what done looks like, or it doesn't align actually with their overall vision. And so they went off track and suddenly they prioritized something that actually wasn't a priority. And they wasted lots of time, precious resources and money and all the things that go along with that. So we need to have systems and frameworks that help us to drive traction, moving things forward, setting priorities and meeting cadences, operating rhythms that helps us to ensure that the traction is actually happening and on track. And we're looking at the most important things in our business week over week. We're making progress, but we're also solving the issues that are getting in our way, making sure that we're not just putting a Band-Aid on something, but we're actually discussing as a team. And so we need a rhythm, a cadence that enables us to do that. So that's, you know, obviously that traction piece in our meeting structure.
I love it. And I can see the brilliance in Gino. I can imagine him debating, okay, because you could have infinite number, but 6 is a nice manageable number. But then it's like, okay, what order do they go in? And I'll say, my experience, visionary entrepreneurs are a lot like the nomadic hunters of the olden days. We're agile, we can move far and fast, and we can do all kinds of things. But it wasn't until society said, let's build farms, let's make things predictable, reliable. All of a sudden, we have, civilization and cities. So, the world would be very different without both sides, but it's a balance. And I genuinely see it as yin and yang, because when you have a visionary, and I love Gino's example of the Disney brothers. If we just had Walt, he'd be some crazy guy who draws cartoons. If we just had Roy, he'd have the best organized stockroom on the planet. But when you put the two together, you end up with this empire of happiness that, they are the happiest place on earth, and they've been that beacon for decades. So I'm fascinated, because I do love the people who can see both. I recognize, and I'm going to share my little secret for anybody watching, because I think you'll appreciate this. The business is not my R&D lab. That's where I used to burn the building down with us in it all the time, because it was like, hey, what if we did this? And hey, what if we did that? And I'm flexible enough to fall on my face, get up and move. But for the average employee, that's demotivating, because they don't see the lesson we learned in the experiment. They see that we failed and we're starting over. So for me, I have a lab where I do my best work with the whiteboard, and we touched on this. The whiteboard is great for me. It's my favorite tool. I am happy in that space. But my whiteboard never sees the light of day in the operations, because it's got the vision, but it's missing the other 5 pieces. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I think about as I'm hearing you is, the work that I do with my clients, is giving them that space to have those conversations, to be vulnerable around what's working, what's not working together, to come up with the best solution, sort of outside the day-to-day, so they're not in it trying it. They have a solid plan and control. When they walk out of the room, they're all clear on where they're going to go for the next 90 days. So they're, some of it is they don't always know how they're going to execute where they want to go. So some of it is a bit like, we've got to look at this and try, and that will change. And, that's a muscle that kind of gets better. But again, I think the thing that comes up for me as you're sharing that is creating that space to have those conversations, to talk about the wins, but also talk about what's not working. Because I find that a lot of leaders are scared. And finally they'll get it rocking and rolling as a leadership team, but then they're scared to bring it down to the rest of the organization, the tier 2, tier 3, whatever. And it's like, no, this is what they need from you, but it's like, we've got to share the why. Like, let's talk about what you experienced throughout this last a year or two of what it brought you, this clarity and control, and when you can share the why to your people, it may look a little different to your boots on the ground. Like, they see it too, of how it makes their job easier, better, less painful, less frustrating. But they need the space. You've got to take the space. And so my message in this long-winded answer is, like, you've got to get out of your business and work on your business. And it can't just be spitting ideas. There's got to be a plan for execution and ownership, and it can't just come from you. You can't build that empire all on your own. And
it's
so
exhausting.
Yeah. And you only get so far, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, you and I could talk for hours about all of these things, and we will have other episodes, I promise. Couple of quick thoughts. Number one, let's make it easy. What sort of business, like, what level is somebody at when they raise their hand and say, Meryl, I'm ready? Because I know that there's a sweet spot where EOS is the perfect level, but too soon, and you're just documenting what might be one day, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I work with growth-minded teams, right? I work with the leadership team. They're growth-minded, anywhere from 10 to around 300 people in size. They are more comfortable being uncomfortable, right, than just the status quo. So they want to. Oh no, did I lose you?
Nope, no,
Oh,
I'm here.
okay. They sorry. So they're growth minded in that sense, and there's certain things that are starting to slow them down. Like maybe there's some misalignment that they're starting to feel across their team. They usually have a some form of a leadership in place. That said, leadership can look different in various industries than others. So it's like a head person who owns this piece of the business, a head person who does this. I mean, it could be an office manager, for heaven's sake, like
Yeah.
it can look very different. But, maybe there's too many priorities, or everything is still running through you. The constant
Everything feels urgent.
Yeah, everything feels urgent. Yeah, the constant firefightings. We're not executing on the things that we say we want to do, or very simply, we're not getting everything we want from our business. Like that's kind of where you start to see that you're hitting a ceiling in the business. If you have a business where you're just getting started, and maybe you have some doers on your team, less than 10 employees, and you don't really have a formalized manager structure, I'm still happy to have a conversation with you. If you're a solopreneur and getting started, it's probably a bit early, but these tools can help you. Some of them, even like a weekly scorecard or setting 90-day goals. I'm always happy to have a conversation, but really the target market, you're looking anywhere from 10 to 300 or so in employee size, and anything north of 2 million in revenue is kind of where you're, and above is kind of where you're at.
Yeah, because I've seen many, you can get to 1 million on the sheer willpower of the founder, but it's new levels, new devils, and all of a sudden, I see the 1 to 2 million as the break point for most businesses. If they make it to 2, very likely they'll make it to 5. But if they don't make it to 2, it's sad. So
they'll stay. Yeah, they'll stay stagnant. And actually, I love having conversations with those folks as well. So happy to have a conversation. And yeah, I mean, because they need structure too. So but yeah, I mean, but even what gets you the 2 million to the 5 million, from the 2 to the 5, from the 5 to the 10 looks totally different. You usually have way more people. The leadership management piece starts getting way more heavy. And if you just want to grow, like, that your business is on a trajectory to grow, like maybe you've just gotten some funding as well. Do not just hire a bench of people with that money and not have a structure.
The best.
Oh my God. It's wild to me how they secure funding and there's like no solid real structure in place. Like, there's other things in place, but like, you need this. Like, you cannot scale your business without a system. Hard stop.
I have this weird theory or bias that every venture capitalist, every angel investor, their first requirement should be, and here's your EOS coach. I
fully agree. I fully agree. It's really funny. I mean, the VC people who I've spoken to are often like, they try to be less prescriptive about it. And I'm just like, no, these people don't know. They don't know what they don't know. Like, they need a system to run and operate their business. And EOS is the best system out there for execution and building stronger leaders and managers. And running it with a coach and a facilitator is really important. You can self-implement. The book gives you the tools and the ingredients. You'll move slower. You'll hit a ceiling. You don't have someone on the outside really sharing with you how to use the tools as they were intended, and also holding you accountable to things that you're still tolerating in your business. So all those ingredients are super important.
Honestly, it's that accountability piece, because as a founder, we can have crazy vision, we see everything, or we have tunnel vision and we see one thing. A good coach will challenge you, kick your butt a little, and say, hey, why are you doing that and ignoring this? My final question is probably the most important. How can people connect with you, follow along with you, learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, first of all, if I struck a chord with you throughout this conversation and it piqued your interest or you're feeling these things in your business, I'd love to have a conversation with you. We can have a coaching style conversation. Feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach me at meryl@claritycoach.io. You can also find me on the EOS Worldwide Directory, Meryl Simmons, professional implementer. So you can reach out to me that way as well. And you can follow along with me if you go to claritycoach.io and sign up for my newsletter. If you're still sort of just dipping your toe in and want some more information, feel free. And where's my book? Oh, it's behind me. Reach out to me and I can send you the Traction book. If you haven't read it, you know, it's a great book. But most importantly, if you're feeling these things, don't read a book. Speak to someone who can help you. You really don't need to sit in like the torture phase for any longer than you already have. Running a business is really hard, and doing it without tools and a guide is even harder. So don't do that to yourself. There's great support out there. I'd love to help you.
I love that. And I'm immediately thinking of Einstein's quote that you can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created it. And I think that's
Yes.
why people need to talk to you. Meryl, you're a delight. Thank you for hanging out with me and being on the show today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.